All right, welcome to the program. This is newspaper review, and that took me by surprise. But anyway, we'll get into the conversation. Look at stories that made it to the cover pages. We also have, well, I am Moses Humphrey. My colleague is right here, just to have the proper introductions out of the way. Chukwuokoro. All right, Chukwuokoro.
Thanks for joining us on newspaper review.
There you have it. We're also being joined by Sheson Okwade, who is a chartered tax professional, chartered accountant, and a chartered transport professional as well. Let's establish communication with Sheson Okwade if he has joined us virtually. Good morning to you. Okay. All right. We do understand that he will join in the course of time. And we'll look at a few things. Well, the NFF, the news broke today, this morning, that the NFF has pulled the Super Eagles out of the Afcon qualifiers. Nigeria was to play the return leg against Libya, in Libya, but they were flown to a different airport and have had to wait at the airport for more than 12 hours. Well, some would say it's tit for tat. Well, as the Libyan team came into Nigeria, they landed at Port Harcourt airport and had to go by road to Akwa Ibom, where they played the Super Eagles. But report has it that when the players chose, the Libyan players chose to land at Port Harcourt airport, as against what we are seeing play out in Libya, where the Super Eagles were close to landing and then got a message. And the pilots had to navigate the difficult terrain of taking off again and then landing at a different airport, which is miles away. And then they have to drive more than 2 hours to where they are to play. But unfortunately, they've also had to stay at the airport. Well, we'll talk about this and more in the course of the program. Well, there you have pictures of the Super Eagles players stranded at the airport
Moses,
arrival wing.
Okay, Moses, before we move on, I think, like I used to say that an eye for an eye will leave the world a blind place.
Of course.
To leave the world a blind place. So, what the Libyan authorities have done, it's simply not acceptable. Now that the Super Eagles have pulled out of the game, what happened?
But we'll see what CAF will do. We'll see if CAF will award this to Nigeria. We'll see if they will award this as a win to Nigeria. But we'll wait to see.
But I think why they did that, beyond trying to repay Nigeria for what Nigeria did to them, they also, if you have to drive a very long distance, to play a match,
you'll be exhausted.
You'll be exhausted. You'll be exhausted. So maybe that was their own ploy, to get a win against the Nigerian Super Eagles.
All right, then. Well, we have Sheson Okwade joining us now. Sheson, good morning to you.
Moses, good morning, my prof. Good morning to all our viewers.
Good morning, the chattered of chattered. Good to have you on Newspaper Review.
Good to have you.
Great to start the week with you.
Thank you very much.
We're starting with events in Libya, where the Super Eagles have been stranded and NFF having to pull them out of the competition, Afcon qualifiers. What's your take on this?
Yeah, I just read in passing that particular thing, but you see, holistically, I think our logistic process in the country is becoming an eyesore, an issue. My experience last week from Lagos to Abuja depicts that we seem to be having more problem with our logistic arm, and I think I function in the transportation arm too. Imagine I booking the flight to Abuja for Sunday, and 6 a.m. on Sunday I got cancellation of my flight, and I asked myself. I had a program for 5:30 that day. My flight was for 1:45, and at 6 a.m. It's not that they are rescheduling; it's about cancellation.
Oh yes.
I'm only bringing this out because a lot of critical issues impact on our businesses. So you can imagine if I've not actually, I had to call one high and mighty in that particular airline, and he said, "Sheson, just go straight to the airport, ask of the manager on duty." And I was fortunate to be put on the next flight, which was around 12 noon. But you can imagine a lot of people, missed their flight. And you don't just fly. When you even look at the cost of flying these days, I look back when I'll fly to Abuja in the morning and come back in the afternoon at the rate of 18,000 return tickets. It's this same Nigeria, same Sheson Kwade that actually paid for that. And you have to pay as high as about 230, 240 for a return ticket to Abuja. You look at the impact of such on businesses. I don't blame the aviation industry either. It's an holistic thing, which is actually contributing. So if I must fly to Abuja for a business, that means putting those logistics in together. I have like 500,000 to spend, and that will be bought by my client or by my customer. So that's why everybody is resorting to this virtual way of doing everything. But give or take, going back to the Super Eagles stuff, I feel our logistic needs to be strengthening because it contributes a
But it goes
lot.
beyond logistics, really. This is more a case of tit for tat, because when the Libyans came to Nigeria, they played at the Godswill Akpabio Stadium in Akwa Ibom, but they landed at the Port Harcourt airport, and then had to drive by road to Akwa Ibom. But reports have it that the players chose, or the airline chose to land in Port Harcourt, as against what we are having with the Super Eagles, where the Super Eagles would have, I forgot the name of the exact airport they were supposed to land, but then while they were about to land, they were diverted to another airport that is miles away, and they were to go by road back to where they were supposed to land initially. And unfortunately, no arrangement has been made for them to move by road. No arrangement was made for them to be lodged into hotels because of the delay. The match is for Tuesday. No arrangement has been made. Even the pilot had to find a way to put his crew up somewhere. I mean, so the players have been stranded. You can see pictures of them on our screen there at the airports with your bags. Basically,
you see, for me, it's about understanding with some of this country.
Don't you think this is embarrassing?
It's more than
an embarrassment for a nation.
But Moses, I want to pick it up that what is actually our own position when that happened, when they came to Nigeria, saying they were supposed to land at Akwa Ibom and they landed at Port Harcourt. They had to move by road, which you and I are discussing that is tit for tat. How did we handle that situation then? How did we manage it on the path of Nigerian, apologizing and giving reason for some of these things that has happened? You see, we should not at times blame the other party if you have failed initially in your own contractual agreement to that. I always tell people, I don't do tit for tat, but I don't want to believe that there government intended to do that. And if they did, it's just the way we African reason and the way we handle and treat ourselves. But most of the time, the failure of one, metamorphosed into the reaction of the other, because action begets reaction. If you have treated me unfair and unjust, if I come to your house, it's just human at times, the way people will want to get back at you. It's just if you give somebody good hospitality, coming to your environment, you should expect it goes all out to at least make sure that they do the same to you on the other aspect. So I feel it's an issue between the two countries. Just that when two elephants fight, the grass suffers. Is the players.
All right, then.
I think the NFF will have undergone some kind of pressure exerted on them by the Libyan authorities for them to take this decision. They wouldn't just wake up and say we are pulling out. You understand? So something must have precipitated that action. And it could be the way the Libyan authorities reacted to them by, first of all, not reaching out to them, not taking care of them, and then been in that airport for more than 12 hours.
More than 12 hours.
So it's most likely that they reacted, like Sheson said, action and reaction. They reacted to how they were treated.
All right.
But like I said, an eye for an eye leaves the world blind.
Leaves the world blind. Well, let's get into the papers now. From the Vanguard newspaper, the banner headline here reads, Petrol crisis, FG resolves NNPCL marketers dispute. Riders, as NNPCL refunds 15 billion naira to marketers after DSS intervention. Marketers, Dangote refinery set for negotiation. Delay to impact domestic market. Many outlets still shut. Experts call for instant resolution of pricing. Others, consumers should shift to alternatives. That's coming from, well, and anyway, on top of the nameplate of the paper, we have Edo government writes Okwewolo, APC on formation of transition team. Olu of Warri urges Africans to break free from mental limitations. And then you go further down, we have a price of bread rising faster than inflation rate. DSS releases 2 #End Bad Governance protesters in Kaduna. 125 still in detention. Adeyanju. Okay, now for the headline that talks about the price of bread rising faster than inflation rate, it has sub-riders. It will continue if, according to bakers, flour millers give reasons for high prices. Production cost rises 45% to 2.2 trillion naira. Revenue rises faster at 47.5% to 2.5 trillion naira. NAS considering raising VAT to 10% by 2025. That's according to a document being released. VC's appointment sparks row in Uni Abuja. And yes, well, from the paper we have ahead of Eagles clash tomorrow, Libya in disarray as FA president resigns. Okay, so they have issues over there as their FA president also has resigned. So there's a whole lot more to what we are seeing. Oh, well, these are the headlines from the Vanguard newspaper. And Chesom, what's your take on these headlines before we touch on other dailies as well? Ochukuma, you want to say something?
No, let Chesom have a go. Chesom, go ahead.
What's your
You
take?
need to unmute yourself.
We'd like for you to unmute your microphone because you seem to have...
Yeah.
Go ahead.
It's not muted.
Oh.
Can you hear me now?
Yes, we can.
Okay. So what interests me so much in the dailies, if they can flag it again, is the one that has to do with food. Pardon me. When you talked about the price of bread rising faster than every other thing. We've spoken so much when it comes to petrol crisis, NNPC shenanigans, and all those things. But I'm particular about it because it speaks to an average citizen. I'm sure while we are growing up, bread is one of the food we consider so much to eat. Once bread and beans in the morning, at least you are guaranteed that you've taken the food for the day. So if it's becoming unaffordable for an average citizen, it's quite worrisome, if you ask me. And when you look at some of the reasons that they are given, in terms of the cost of the flour, in terms of operation cost, is what is inevitable that all of us are actually saying. We have said it times with that number, this petrol crisis, which takes me to the major banner of the Vanguard newspaper. This major petroleum crisis will continue to impact, seriously on the business operation of an average citizen, most especially those that are supposed to cushion the economy, the SMEs. The bread manufacturers are more like a small, medium enterprise. They are not conglomerates that you can actually talk about. So when the cost of petrol is really not affordable, or even diesel to power their destiny, and when you talk about energy cost in terms of a lot of them being on band A, it will continue. You see, a lot of policies that the government are bringing out, it can work for those organizations. The organization will absorb it. But come to think about it, who bear the brunt is the customer, the consumers of some of those products. So it's quite worrisome if we do not have a lasting solution to this issue of energy crisis, not only petrol, but in terms of even power. A lot of organizations are shutting down because they cannot even afford to pay the distribution company of the bills that they are getting, if that is to be transferred to the consumers. These are areas we feel that the government needs. You see, energy cost is very strategic to the growth and survival of an average citizen. So when you cannot even meet up with those energy cost on its own, it impacts on the deliverables of some. And that's what we're saying. If you can't afford bread, rice is unaffordable, bread is unaffordable, beans is unaffordable. I learned that Gary is going out of space. So which food do we now have for the common man to eat? And we are all complaining of the level of insecurity in the country. When you can't survive, the next thing you will see, like some of those comical things that we watch on social media, you can just be eating and somebody via the window will just snatch your chicken or even snatch your bread that you're actually cooking because it's hungry. What have you got to do? An hungry man is an angry man. So you try to chase after him, he eats back at you, and you might just have casualty, operating. So we feel government needs to be intentional with some of their policy. Most especially, I keep saying this, that they need to work on energy cost for the growth of SMEs because they are the bedrock of every nation, and the growth is actually, simultaneous to the growth of the economy of a nation.
Yes, thank you very much. So you see, I like the fact that you were able to link the price of bread, to the energy crisis because they rub off on each other. And these are two of the three paradoxes we have in Nigeria and Africa in general. You also have the debt paradox, where Africans hold the actual gold reserves. We have the resources, yet we are largely indebted to the world. Now, talking about the food paradox, it is surprising to know that bread is at the center of our menu. There is practically any home that does not have bread as a meal a day. But that is gradually going out of our menu.
Gradually being eroded.
Gradually getting out of the reach of Nigerians. I recall there was a loaf of bread I used to sell for 180, 200. That particular loaf of bread is for 750 naira now. In a space of 1 year. And if you have a family of 6, you have to get that bread, like 3 of them. And that is how much? 2,000. And you have not factored in egg, you have not factored in tea, you have not factored in milk. And it's also surprising to know that the shortage of bread was what actually led to the Russian Revolution. A lot of people don't understand this. Because bread was also a staple then. When people could not longer afford bread, the proletariat, that was when they rolled out. In 1917, way back, over 100 years ago, that was when they rolled into the streets, and caused the Russian Revolution.
Oh, yes.
That was when Russia unraveled. And we hope that it doesn't get to that. But from the way we are going, when Akiwumi Adesina was the Minister of Agriculture, he actually developed the cassava bread. Given the fact that Nigeria is the highest producer of cassava globally, worldwide, but we've been overtaken by Ecuador. Ecuador now exports more cassava to the world than Nigeria. So the government should watch it. Flour, whatever, it's critical to that product. If there's anything they can do, if it is cassava flour, if whatever they can do to bring down the price of bread, the government had better do it now because it's getting to a point where rice is disappearing on our table, bread is disappearing, beans disappeared long ago.
Rice is not disappearing, it has disappeared.
Okay, rice has disappeared, grains has disappeared, beans has disappeared. So if everything, even the ewa, ewa is beans, even eba and amala are no longer affordable.
I think a pint of Gary now goes for about 4,500 or thereabouts.
Or even more.
Even more.
So we have a very big issue in our hands. And the government had better.
If I may just start this, you see the importance of bread. You cannot, when you mention the Russian Revolution, you see bread is that food that can stand the gap. Take bread with anything. You are even talking of the big men that will take champagne and egg. Bread and mineral. That's what an average person...
A laborer will take.
Gives you a meal a day.
because it gives him, he won't even buy beans. He will just take bread and 7 Up those days. And the guy is set for the journey. So if he can't afford to buy bread and mineral, how do you expect him to survive? Because a laborer will not go about and eat rice. He can't, so he can't give him the energy. And when you said 750 bread, I don't eat too much. I don't eat too much. But before now, a loaf of bread a family can take. When if I grab a loaf of bread of about 2,000 now,
and you squeeze it,
I'll finish it and I'll ask for more.
Can you imagine?
I don't eat. So you can imagine somebody who needs it for energy, somebody who takes that food, eats in the morning, and consider that maybe till the next day. Because once you eat bread and beans, it's like my Yoruba people will call it sokudale. You know, it
takes you for the rest of the day.
You just be topping up with water.
With water, yeah.
You know the topping up with water.
But the loaf of bread is so light this day that when you press it together, it's like you're buying 300 naira bread. And the child will just finish one loaf of it. So I think government needs.
Government needs to do something about this bread.
Cassava bread was actually promoted. You know, Nigerians, we adapt to things
easily. We do.
Adapt to things. I would have played down the issue of flour and concentrate more on cassava, which we can locally produce here and make bread more affordable to everyone that we have in there. But it's disheartening what we are actually faced with.
All right, and well, we also do know that in Kenya, tax on bread was one of the things
that led to the
protest when the government said they were going to put taxes on bread.
Moses, let's touch on NAS considering raising VAT to 10% by.
Okay, let's quickly touch on that one. I want us to go to the Guardian because there are a few headlines I'd like us to touch on. But go ahead.
Oh, you know, they flew a cat about VAT increase
earlier in the year,
just about a month ago or so. And when Nigerians kicked the soft pedal, but now they are proposing that for next year, and it's also part of the effort of this government to, I keep saying, widen the tax net to accommodate more people. I also don't have a problem with that. My problem is, what do you do with the tax money? What do we do with the tax money? Moses, you and I, we keep talking about it every day. You keep giving the instance of the toll gate at the international airport, where you have potholes just before and after.
Some meters away from the. In fact, right there at the toll gate.
And these monies are collected, yet you can't fix it. Away from the government, you even see NUWRT, National Union of Road Transport Workers. Collect levies from parks year in, year out for the past 30, 40 years that I have known. And these parks are not asphalted. They are not even paved with concrete. And the moment it rains, the whole park is flooded. And you begin to ask, what do they do with this money is collected every other day?
The money is obviously just goes into.
So government is not alone. It goes into private. Government is not alone. Even in the private sector or semi-private, semi-public sector participants, like the road transport workers that I just talked about now, local governments that are in charge of parks and markets, they do nothing with the monies collected. And yet, every other day we see banks are taxing us. VAT is taxing, beer producers, everybody is taxing. The government is just widening the tax net to draw in a lot of people. What do they do with that money? That is the critical question.
When you say what do they do with the money, you see, we have a way of looking at the people ahead of us and see what they are doing and see if you can actually emulate what they are doing. I think it's a call out for the fan and those that actually collect the toll gate money. That I saw at the roundabout, very close to our. It's quite embarrassing that's the route that leads to our international airport.
Oh yes,
the gateway to Nigeria.
It links both the international and local.
Yes. So I'm sure if they hear this, some people will actually, fasten up their belt and see what they can do.
All right.
As a call out. But the truth of it is that corruption has actually eat deep into everything we are doing. Right. Majority of those funds being collected goes into the hands of the very few without anybody asking questions. Do anybody give account when it comes to NURTW? It's nobody. It's what comes. If the chairman wants to take afternoon meal, he puts it on the bill of every buses that goes there, aside the ticket that they've actually given. I've seen that happen severally, where they will just say that Shebi I paid this. They say no, we are collecting this money. And when you see even the approach to it, when you refuse to pay some of this levy, vandalizing vehicles and all those things, I think it's something that we should just call.
By the way, that reminds me, you're a chartered transport professional. What do you think can be done better in the transport sector, especially in Lagos, where levies are paid and the parks are the parks are abandoned?
You see, first and foremost, we lack accountability. That's the major area where I consider some of this. It's not that we don't know what to do. When those funds that are supposed to even go to the government purse are going to individual purse and nobody is raising questions. Some of the players in this sector are even bigger than the government with the money that they generate from it. You need to see an average local government person collecting ticket. They have government ticket, they have their ticket. That is how bad and how corrupt. Nobody asks question. You come back today and you are like remitting funds, and somebody is saying this is the amount that goes into the government. The first thing we must first do is to kind of put up a system structure where we have possibly enumeration of what goes into a garage, what revenue that is expected of it. I remember those days they used to tow the garages where you need to pay specific amount. When you are going in, they captured you. You see, until when you start introducing technology into our transportation system, when you are going into a garage, they captured you. We can even go the route of e-ticketing, where when you make payments, there's something for you to actually click on and ride on it. Everybody can see it. Technology brings in transparency, but the first thing we are lacking is transparency and accountability in the logistics world. Everybody just does whatever they like. What is obtainable in this region is different from what is obtainable even within the states, and nobody is actually coordinating their activity. When you're able to account for what you have, on that premise, you can now be looking at, are we even making enough money to take care of some of the infrastructure that, because when they make that money, they still hold on to the government to come and provide certain infrastructure with them. Then what is the essence of the levy that you are actually collecting?
All right.
These are areas we need to actually speak to, ask questions about how much of it is actually being remitted. You discover that a lot of these people, that's why they can kill themselves to take over chairmanship and leadership of some of these parts, because they live so large that they are bigger than even the government themselves. And it's because there is no transparency and accountability in the system. If that can be addressed, then we can talk of some of the things that Prof raised and addressing some of those infrastructure. But when the money you are getting from the park is not even commensurate with the influx of the vehicle that goes in, because certain set of people have diverted the fund. What do you do?
All right, then. Well, I christened him Prof, so whoever wants to call him Prof will have to pay me because I gave him that title.
Yeah, but you know that you have so much with you in advance as a chartered accountant. So I'm only drawing from the advance payment.
No problem.
You know that I can call him Prof.
No problem. Let's get into the Guardian newspaper now. There are headlines I would like us to touch on from the Guardian. The banner headline on the Guardian reads, "Uncertainty over minimum wage execution as state governments falter." All right. When you go further down, you will see some riders, some more headlines there. PDP crisis deepens. Mohammed tasks charge, demands swift action. Vacation, return home. Citizens confused about your policies. CSOs urge Tinubu. IMF slashes borrowing costs by 36%. Lowers country's exposure by $1.2 billion yearly. And interesting one. Importers decry 25 million naira clearance for 40 feet containers. Reverse petrol price pending court verdict. Serap tells Tinubu. Now, I would want to chime in to the importers decrying 25 million naira clearance for 40 feet containers. The story has it that according to, at the ports now, if you're importing 40 feet containers, you have to pay for finished products. All right? Finished products, you would have to pay between 21 to 25 million naira to clear that 40 feet container. And I think this defeats the conversation around tax-free window. Ease of doing business, the tax-free for imported goods that the government spoke about, as a way of helping businesses to thrive in these difficult times. It speaks against it. And it also gives the impression, all right? Now, I hate to say this, but I'll just have to put this out there. It gives the impression that this is targeted at a certain group of people that we know do a lot of importation. All right? I don't think the policies are ripe for this time.
Moses, the policy will have been a good one.
That's what I said. I don't think it's ripe for this time.
It is not ripe by this time, and it is not right. You know why? If the government is doing this to discourage import, we should have seen a situation where local manufacturers are propped up. We ramp up local production to the extent that you discourage importation. If you make it difficult for people to import, they will have no option than to patronize locally made goods. But we have a situation where we are almost at zero level in manufacturing. Foreign companies are even closing shop and exiting Nigeria. Yet, you now make it difficult for people to import, even where you have also said you created a 150-day window for people to import finished goods, especially food items. And you are now saying, oh, for you to clear a 40-feet container, you have to pay as much as 25 million naira. What does that tell you? What it tells you is that the importer who is interested in doing business will simply import, pay that amount, and transfer it to the consumer, to the end users. And what do you get? High cost, inflation, soaring inflation, with purchasing power that is on a nosedive. So it's very, very difficult to understand how this government, places policies. In one breath, they say one thing, and in another, they do something that is quite conflicting with the policy initiative, with the policy direction, and you see the whole thing crumble. And Nigerians are at the short end of the stick, at the receiving end of it. Oh, yes. We just complain about the high cost of bread now and other items. Moses, things like a lot of people used to eat baked beans. A lot of people used to eat, maize, corn maize, and all of those things. Yeah. But you go to many homes, you don't find those things on their table, on their dining table anymore. It's not as if we have local alternatives. People have even resorted to brisket bone instead of meat. Okay. The brisket bone is not even affordable.
Yeah.
In fact, they set it aside. Go ahead, please.
Yeah, quite interesting. I didn't even know that would make the headline this morning. I was talking with one of my uncles yesterday. It's been a while we spoke, but he brings in some goods. He's an importer of a particular product in the country. He represents a company in this medical fee, and he was just complaining to me that Sheson, you people that are help us beg government, because these days, aside, they keep bringing different fees. This one is not from backdoor. They will tell you point blank, this is the fee that they did not even pay last 2 months. You will see it when you are bringing this, and it keeps impacting on their bill. As a matter of fact, just like what Dangote said the other time, he's already contemplating of possibly leaving another place within the West African shore where he can actually have his businesses much more better. Because he said you wake up every day, you cannot even predict the fee you are going to pay. And when you make the business unpredictable for a business owner, where would they have you have your cash flow analysis, you have your business plan already structured. Years back, you can have 5 years plan, you can have 3 years plan of how it's going. Because of the inconsistency, you cannot even have a year plan for yourself, because where you started from. Just take, for example, myself as an average businessman, what my budget last month for my office is quite going to be different this month, because as at last month, I was still battling with buying fuel at 800, and now I'm back to see it at 1,000 naira. So
plus.
is it the same thing you are going to put it? So when you come up with different policies and inconsistency with the pricing, it affects every businessman of their plan. The plan you have at the beginning of the year is not what you are implementing again, because as a company, if you are actually reporting to the board, you should be asking for appropriation budget, because you would have overshot yourself with several expenses that is going on. So when you go to this, I don't even want to go the route you are talking about, Moses, to say certain specific set of people, because it's a lot of people play in that sector, and government is not looking at anybody's face. This person complained bitterly of it, that day by day they wake up with different charges, different fees. That is not that is behind the scene. They actually
It's right there, right there in their faces.
Yes.
So if you're actually at the beginning of something as at last year and last month, and you are planning to bring in another thing this month,
really,
and you are meeting up with those things,
how does this even affect people that take loans to do business, importing?
Yes. Nobody takes loan. No, nobody. How can you survive with the current interest rate of over 37%?
You know, even if you take the Moses route, suggesting that a particular set of people are targeted, the government
cannot.
It's
not the Moses route.
No, the government cannot even succeed. You know why? These people, it is their business, it is their call, it is their mainstay. They will simply do it and transfer the cost to the average Nigerian. It's as simple, because they're not going to stop their businesses. They will continue. Any amount of tax, any amount of tariff or whatever you place on them, they'll simply pay it and do a markup. And do a markup on the goods. And transfer it to the consumers, to the end user. By then it becomes a national issue. It will no longer be targeted as a particular set of people. But like Chesson said, it's every other person is involved in importation, whether you are from the west, east, north, or even south. Everybody is involved. Just that we have a particular set of people that are more into that business. But if it is the idea of government to take them out of that business, they can only try, but I'm not sure they will succeed. Because at the end of the day, the average Nigerian will be at the receiving end of it. So the earlier we start to,
especially because we're not exactly a producing nation.
To reevaluate. We started to reevaluate, the tariff system, the custom duties and all of that. It's better for us. Because if you ask me, if they generate all those revenues, it goes back to the system, a system that is already saturated.
That's exactly what I want to speak to that prophet saying. You are driving the revenue, and we are not seeing the impact of that revenue. You are only speaking. See, before now, my organization is a major importer of one of the things that we use in the power sector, meters. We had to back out of it because of the inconsistency, and that's why you see these days in the power sector it becomes a problem. Today you can buy meter at this rate. They are increasing it. For 6 months, they can tell you that no meter installation. In some discos, it's brought down to the cost at which some of those things are coming in. We are not producing it here locally. Those that even claim that they are manufacturing, they are SKDs. Some of those things, you bring more than 90% of some of the accessories from other countries. You can only assemble it here. But when you look at the cost at which you pay, the tariff at which you pay, is inconsistent, and you can't plan with that. So how can you wake up this morning, you are budgeting like 20 million to go and clear something, and you get to the port, they said it's already 25 million. How do you account for that 5 million difference? As a finance person, it impacts on your bottom line, considering the fact that you have given your commitment to your client that you are delivering those products to. So you have no other two alternatives are there for you, either to increase your price upon delivery, or you actually absorb it and you are running at loss, running your company below what is expected of it. So I think government we should have that window, which we used to have those days, where you can comfortably say that this is the plan for the next 2, 3, 4 months, 1 year, 2 years. This is the consistency that we are experiencing. What is affecting business is the inconsistency in the government policy. Now, somebody was telling me yesterday that we all know, and it's in the public space, that December is always a crisis period for us energy-wise, because people want to travel, and there's this scarcity. So if, as at now, we are seeing the price of petrol at 1,000 naira, so when it gets scared in November, December, during the yard season, as we used to have it, are you sure we are not going to buy fuel as high as 1,300, 1,500?
Well, I foresee that. I foresee that.
You to foresee.
Yes,
So
I foresee
people
that.
are already thinking in that direction. They'll say that you can imagine how the Yuletide will be this year. It will be pretty difficult on every individual, because yesterday I bought fuel when on arrival back to Lagos. And I'm like, for Christ's sake, this is what I used to buy fuel for a month for my car. And you're just doing that for him because I've not been in the office for a while because I traveled for a program. So you need to get the business on. So we need to be consistent so that somebody can have a window of planning to say, okay, this that you are giving to your client, the quotation I gave my client last month cannot work again this month.
Which is unfortunate.
So how do you expect that? So you are going back to a client that is telling you he's struggling to even pay the old price you gave him. Now,
well, this is exactly this. So sorry to interrupt you. This is exactly what played out with Ipman and NNPCL, because they had paid NNPCL for fuel, but unfortunately the price went up, and NNPCL held their monies down and said, "Look, pay the difference, and then we'll supply." And they went on and on until today. We saw the news that government has given the go-ahead for NNPC to refund those monies that amounted to about 15 billion naira.
You can see you are refunding the money. When you look at it from the finance perspective, time value of money, that's something you should have used to transact business and little margin and be able to add to your bottom line. But you are refunding it. So how do you manage such thing? That the man goes back on its own and starts struggling on how, and you are.
Well, we're running out of time, unfortunately. But quickly, I would like the both of you to respond to this headline here: uncertainty over minimum wage execution as state governments falter. In Jigawa State, the governor sacked his aide for declaring that the government is willing to pay 70,000 naira. A lot of other states are still tinkering. And you did say something earlier. You said if it's a national minimum wage, should states be meeting? Should they set up a committee to talk about whether or not they'll be able to pay that one, or are they trying to increase it?
Moses, my quick take is this: when the Guardian says uncertainty, I don't know what they mean by that, because it has always been uncertain. It has always been uncertain, because even when we had 30,000 naira minimum wage, a lot of states could not even pay the 30,000 naira. And now that the government migrated it at expiration in April to 70,000 naira, well, I will agree with Guardian in the sense that the more uncertainty now, prevails. And that said, at the national level, like I said, if we have a national minimum wage, what that word minimum means is that no government
can
go beyond that threshold. And I said, the governor probably was angry with the outburst, if you ask me, of his aide, because he probably wants to pay more than 70,000 naira. Someone paid more than 70,000, someone paid 72,000. So let's just take it that the governor of Jigawa State will come out to say, that boy messed up, I'm going to pay 80,000 naira. That is the only way.
My goodness.
I think that is what I expect him to do.
Just on your take.
I love the optimistic
I love it
Prof saying that for me, it's a no. I know a lot of them, despite having so much from the federal government through their allocation.
Back allocation, yes.
I can tell you that a lot are still struggling with the 30,000. Remember at the beginning of at the beginning of this year, there's this wage allowance of a differential of about 35,000 to be paid for 6 months. A lot of them didn't fulfill that obligation.
Oh yes.
As we speak, there is no even template to even write on. So it's federal government, that one they call national minimum wage. It's federal government that is only going to fulfill that obligation. Very few states, and we all know the states that are going to comply. Maybe Lagos, Port Harcourt, Lagos Rivers, possibly Kaduna. We know those choice area, Abuja, that are going to meet up with some of these things. And I can tell you, those that are even fulfilling that obligation, they have a shortfall in their provision of infrastructure to the people.
All
But
right.
they will tell you that we've actually complement this by paying you the minimum wage, of which how many of us are government workers. So I feel we've said it times with that number, and my position still stands on the part that rather than we increasing this minimum wage, can we work on things to increase the living structure of an average citizen, to have access to quality education, to have access to good health infrastructure at a minimal cost?
Yes.
Right.
Without 30,000.
You took it from
We're
my
absolutely
mouth,
out of time.
when NLC started angling for 250 minimum wage, I said, instead of minimum wage, please hold the government to account so that they can rejig the economy, so that the money you're asking for, even if it is 50,000 naira, will have purchasing value. That was my take. And I'm happy that Sheso has corroborated my take on that.
All right, then this is where we have to anchor it. I must say a very big thank you to you, Sheso Okwadi, chartered transport professional, chartered accountant, and
chartered transporter.
Yes. Thank you very much for
always
your
a great time to start the week with you. Have a wonderful day.
And you too. Well, Chukwumako, for final words on the show today.
Well, thanks for being part of the show. Enjoy the rest of your day.
All right, then, that's it on the show. On behalf of the backroom staff, we say thank you very much for being part of it. Stick around. Business comes up very shortly with Frank Fagbo. Yes, I got the name right this time around. That's from 10 o'clock all the way to 11. Bye for now.